I really should start making videos about stories that people collectively agree on. But hey, this is Cynical Who, the home of unpopular opinions. So once again, here is another story I don't feel deserved the hate it gets for multiple reasons. The found and forgotten 1967 serial, The Underwater Menace. So, the year is 1967, Patrick Troughton is the new Doctor and things are going well. So far he's faced the Daleks and travelled back to the Highlands of Scotland, and this time he ends up in the 70s and stumbles across a scientist with a mad plan. Okay, so you probably want to know what I think about the story, and I love it. This story is absolutely batshit crazy. Okay, so let me get this straight. A mad scientist wants to bring Atlantis out of the sea by drilling into the centre of the Earth and draining the ocean into the Earth's core, but in doing so, the water would heat up and the Earth would blow up. He literally wants to blow up the Earth just because. Come on, tell me that isn't an amazing idea. It's a shame the writer Jeffrey Horn wasn't asked to come back, because it would have been interesting to see what other wacky ideas he could have brought to the table. Now, this does sort of muck up the continuity with Atlantis in the Time Lost, but that's a whole other can of worms that I don't want to get into. Unfortunately, parts 1 and 4 of this story are missing, but that is of no hindrance whatsoever, unless you're watching the official reconstruction of the DVD, but we'll get to that later. Thankfully though, censor cuts exist. This is where scenes that were deemed too inappropriate to be shown were cut out of the film reels. Thankfully, these were all kept, and it gives us a glance at just how dark this story is.
The lights are playing.
Blimey, I can see why these were cut. I should also probably mention Patrick Troughton in this story. He is simply fantastic, especially for the third story in his run. He has some amazing and genuinely funny scenes involving disguises and whatnot. And then you've got the companions. They all have something to do in this story. Jamie slips into the TARDIS team effortlessly and gets along really well with Ben in some scenes, in the mine and whatnot. Polly is also given something to do in this story as well. I genuinely think this is the best the TARDIS team was handled within the series, and not just wandering off for a few episodes. The set design is pretty good as well. The design of the fish people is just hilarious. The score, where it's present, is pretty atmospheric but also strange in places. And the direction is also something to be admired. Especially considering Troughton didn't get on with the director, but you wouldn't be able to tell. I must also give a few words to the amazing Joseph First, who plays Professor Zaroff, the aforementioned mad scientist. Some have complained he plays the role really over the top, but this just adds to the tension. He is seriously evil and will stop at nothing to get what he wants. Oh, and that cliffhanger.
Kill those 2 men! Nothing in the world can stop me now!
Probably what most people remember from this story, and to be honest, I don't blame them. The passion and energy put into that last line is amazing, only to be undermined by the recap next week.
Kill these 2 men! Nothing in the world can stop me now!
Now, I can't talk about the episode without mentioning the DVD release. This is by far one of the poorest releases in the range. As mentioned before, episodes 1 and 4 are missing and were intended to be animated for the release. Even though the animation had begun pre-production, it was cancelled for whatever reason and then brought back as a reconstruction and cancelled multiple times after that. And what we ended up with was truly, in a word, disappointing. The reconstruction is very poor and slow-moving and doesn't keep up with the original soundtrack. I would strongly advise you to watch the loose cannon version on Dailymotion. I'll leave a link in the description, but so if you lot decide to watch this story, you don't have to sit through this abhorrent mess. Look, ready? Wait for it. The title sequence is just a still image. And with the literal reanimation of Power the Daleks coming up with just a few tweaks, it makes you wonder why they can't go back to this. It's sad that a story was given this treatment. It's Troughton's earliest performance in the show, for God's sake. If you last remember watching the story and hating it, I'd advise you to give it another go. Until my most recent rewatch of it, I wasn't really much of a fan either. But this goes to show how you should always give some episodes another chance. I seriously adore The Underwater Menace, and it's since grown to be one of my favourites.